In the last segment, you gave many examples of how social displacement occurs because of a person's functionality. If a person isn't sharp, perform efficiently or accurately to society's standards, the system will move him as defined by their informational infrastructure. Conclusively, without understanding or support from influences, displacement can be anticipated. How does one end the cycle of displacement when plagued by debilitating dispositions? You identify this pattern as a handicap and recommended two solutions. An intellectual advocate to speak and act on behalf of those who can't function on their own, and educating the evaluating influences. If I understand correctly, that you want people to act more as intellectual crutches instead of behavioral regulators. Now, what if a person doesn't have a disability? You mentioned that a healthy brain can be subjected to impositions of malfunction. Can you elaborate?
First off, I do believe behaviors should continue to be regulated, but I also believe regulations should not end in displacement. Instead, the construction of a psych model that provides alternatives for a person to move through. Now, what if there is no handicap? There's another state of imposition to show you. A healthy brain can be corrupted by toxic environments. Prolonged exposure, normalization of misconduct, and faulty education can wire a person to pathologically make poor choices. I call this the imposition of environment. In the first set of examples, information is compromised from within self, as characterized by mind conditions. In this section, information is compromised from outside of self, via perception. Because a person can be scandalized, incorrectly taught, or neglected. Here are examples of how the environment impacts the psyche. Examine these perspectives. Person A gives person B a car, assuming it's in good condition. When person B drives the car, it malfunctions. Person A scolds person B for his delayed arrival. Should person B internalize what he did not know? Person B was given the wrong instructions, and then when he paid attention, person A labels person B for arriving at the wrong address. Should person B internalize her own inadequacy for following instructions? Telling someone to do illegal activities and stating that it's legal as long as one doesn't get caught. The perceiver is then wired in the head for pathological trouble. In the formation of conscience, an individual is shown that cursing and disrespect is normal. Furthermore, consider if it is taught that morality is perspective to one's preference as long as no one gets offended. When this ideology is a normality among influences, the perceiver may not consider to think any differently. Now I'll immerse you in the reality where the corruption of conscience is inevitable. When the environment is contaminated, this is the result of limited or no boundaries imposed upon perception. The exposure to media, exposure to bad influences, exposure to propaganda. These are examples of absorbed information that scandalizes and demoralizes a person. Now, after absorbing poison for the mind, a decline in character is inevitable when the environment is unstructured. No access to good influences, no defined direction, no process of accountability. A person who has no goals, values, or discipline may be predisposed to act accordingly. In this third example are scenarios of misfortunate living conditions. When the environment is unsustained because of lack of resources, lack of support, or lack of education, this results in a psych map that moves out of naivety or out of desperation. A psych map that is incomplete, lacking the information or options required for correct decision making. This is especially true when there are no guardians or influences of quality character. Answering your question, a healthy brain can pathologically make poor choices because of faulty psych structuring exposure. Two different psych maps demonstrated because a person did not mature in a healthy environment. Between psych maps A, B, and a brain with underlying conditions, what's the difference in pathological behavior? A and B can learn, mature, and grow into character, as characterized by one's ability to retain information, make logical connections, and thus inform decision-making as a matured adult. A brain with conditions, however, may continue to make poor decisions even after influences try to educate. Now I'm going to continue on showing you impositions of corrupt environment exposure that influences people to make bad decisions. It is not enough to filter out environments that lead to demoralization. Corruption is a normality found in music, movies, advertisements, conversations, and even in places you don't expect. It is present everywhere, to the point it has been made normal. And when influences adapt to this culture, it becomes mainstream of acceptable behavior and acted upon like a new religion. The spirit of psychological and moral aloofness becomes manifested everywhere no one speaks up or takes action. The environment is responsible for maintaining truth, love, and character. When authority does not fulfill their role appropriately, the psych structuring initiative falls apart. Quality control is mandatory for maintaining structure and integrity, to prevent psychological or moral demise. In order for that to happen, I believe influences need to be psychologically and morally aligned themselves. Because when they aren't aligned and they try to correct poor decisions, their influence may escalate conflict, especially if naivety is sustained and the heart is neglected, as I introduced to you the imposition of irrationality.